Hey everyone, Ryan here, or MandRproductions, and welcome to my review of the LEGO Star Wars 2022 Death Star Trench Run. Given set number 75329 with 665 pieces, this one will set you back $60 in the US, and it might look familiar because it's a not-so-distant cousin of the May 4th promo from 2 years ago, the Death Star 2 Battle, which is kind of looks like the Trench Run. I guess it's not necessarily taking place in a trench, but they definitely share similar vibes as sets, and we'll take a look at them side by side later on. This set includes no minifigures, so unfortunately just nothing going there. It's not like you're missing out on much. The only potential figures I could really see here are like Darth Vader and a Pilot Luke, and we get those in plenty of sets, so I'm not really fretting there. Where I am fretting, though, is that price. At $60 with no minifigs, it might not quite be worth it. Anyway, this is part of the Diorama collection. As you can see, that's a new subline for LEGO Star Wars, started in 2022 here. The back of the box has a glamour shot from the movie and a weird shot of the set on display on a ugly looking rack. Not really sure why they thought that was good for the back of the box. Then we have the dimensions of the thing. As you can see, not entirely too big, and then it just shows a slightly different angle of the trench run. The instruction manual for this set on the inside has some, I guess UCS style is kind of an outdated term now. It's now 18 plus style because all of these 18 plus adult sets come with like little literature bits like this, and it's kind of cool for people that want to read. I'm not particularly too interested in reading. I kind of did a lot of that in school and I'm over it. So we have outmaneuvering Vader, 3D action experience, and stuff like this is cool. Pictures from like the actual set that they built to film the thing on, like that's really neat. I love seeing that stuff, and always like the behind the scenes documentaries from back in the day that I used to watch. But yeah, then we're into the build. The build process is pretty simple, and what's pretty cool about this is it's actually built in just two separate sections, and then they're combined at the end. As you can see, there are some empty Technic holes on the back of the model as is. Of course, when it's actually on display, you're not going to see that. There's some empty pins down at the bottom. That's where the rods are going to go through, and all you have to do is line it up like this, place it down, and then we're going to insert the gray one here. Just slides right in very easily, and then there's a brown one that goes on the back there. And as you can see, the back of this is not very pretty. It doesn't necessarily need to be. It's just as bland as it gets, so don't expect anything out of that. And the same can be said for the bottom of the model. Very bland, but the rest of it's not quite bland. I wouldn't describe it as such. In fact, it's pretty action-packed. It's really cool. Love the X-Wing front and center. Let's just start with the X-Wing. I think it looks really, really good. It does have this weird transition from where the cockpit area is to like the body of the ship, or the back area where R2-D2 is. Not the best, but obviously in this mini micro scale, you can't really do too much. So I think for the scale that it's at, it works really well. And for the first time ever on a mini or micro X-Wing, we do have a printed R2-D2 tile, and we've gotten tons of mini and micro X-Wings before, so it's really cool to me to see them doing something fresh with this other than just kind of a fresh design, which was going to be needed anyway. You've got the thrust at the back, and then the S-foils are, of course, in their attack position, which looks pretty cool with them open like that. There is no way to close them, so if you're wondering, can you close them and do the closed X-Wing look? No, they do not close. In fact, if I tried to do so, I'll probably just break them. Behind the X-Wing are the three other ships included in the set, with Darth Vader's TIE Advanced flanked by two regular TIE Fighters. And the TIE Fighters have slightly different builds, one to accommodate the lasers, so it's got little clips. The other one does not have those same little clips there, so just slightly different designs. The Vader's TIE Advanced generally looks nice. The lasers can definitely look a little bit awkward at the bottom of it, and it's certainly something you can take out. I think it looks a little bit better when you look at it from afar. When you come up, the lasers just look a little bit weird to me, just a thing. And if we take this and turn it a little bit, because they're all on little plastic, or I guess everything's plastic, but little clear stands, right? But you can see they printed the windshield cockpit piece for the front of the TIE Advanced, as did they do for the TIE Fighters, so you can see that there. I think that's a really nice touch for this set, especially for the $60 price. You gotta have stuff like that, and as I'm going to talk about, it might still not be worth the money, but the TIE Fighters look nice, and these two are on stands that are grounded, and then the third TIE Fighter is actually on a stand that is connected to the wall. Now, that is a slight problem, because it's going to probably be a little bit easier to knock off of there. It's going to be a little bit more prone to failing than the other two TIE Fighters, and then the X-Wing, I didn't really talk about this when I was talking about the X-Wing. It's on a stand that's slightly giving it a bit of a tilt, which makes it a little bit awkward too at times, but it doesn't actually feel like it's going to fall off of there. It just feels like a less strong connection for some reason, but I think that TIE Fighter in the back left was really the only one to be super worried about. But even that, like, it's a display set. You're going to put it on a shelf. Like, even if it can fall off when I touch it a little bit, like, when am I touching this? Never. So it's not a big deal. And I am positive that all the children that come in to browse your Lego collection will certainly take notice of the please do not touch signs, even if they can't read. They're still not going to touch things because it says don't touch. Why would they? Jokes aside, the rest of the trench run build looks fantastic. You've got a lot of greebling that creates a ton of detail. I've never really understood what's exactly going on the surface or in these trenches of the Death Star. I mean, obviously this is a turret, but like the rest of the stuff just seems kind of random to me. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. So it's just like a lot of pipes and things that curve and go nowhere. And that's kind of all the design is and has to be to match what the Death Star is. So I am a big fan of the way it looks. I think this just looks like the trench of the Death Star. And it's nice that they were also able to get in one of those turrets from the surface of the Death Star. So you can see this one can actually spin around, and with the lightsaber hilt there, you can see it's only connected by a stud. So it will pop off if you try to move these without holding it down. It's kind of an unfortunate byproduct, but they can move up and down, and you can actually have it try to track your X-Wing wherever you might have it placed. So right now we have it there, so obviously it's going to be pointing there. Or maybe it turns on the TIE Fighters and it shoots the TIE Fighters. Who knows? But yeah, that's a really cool looking thing. Very simple build, though. Doesn't need to be anything fancy because these things aren't anything fancy. I think the L shape does a great job of representing the trench for the Death Star. Obviously, you wouldn't want the front and third wall here, so that would basically ruin the displayability of this. Except from this angle, I mean, it could still look cool if you had the other wall on the right and then you only look at it this way. But obviously, from like a cost perspective of how much Lego is going to charge for a set, if they add another wall on, that's probably another $20 for the set. And for a set that's already probably a little bit too much, it's not a great thing. Anyway, on the very front, there's Lego Star Wars title, and then it has a quote tile that says the Force is strong with this one. And then at the very bottom of that, it says Darth Vader. I really like the way they made the Darth Vader and the quotation marks a darker gray color versus the white color. It just kind of makes everything pop really well there. So I'm a big fan of that. And before I tell you whether or not I think it's worth the $60, here's a side-by-side shot with the 2020 promotional set that was just $50. I mean, it was worth $15, but it was free with purchases over like $75 or $85. So you can see the difference. You are getting a much nicer product for $60 versus quote-unquote free here. So I definitely appreciate that. And the other thing with this one, it falls apart quite easily. Like, it will just snap in half. So this one is a much more rigid build, as you could see with what they've done with the plates and paneling and everything. It's just a stronger build versus what you got for free. So that is definitely an appreciated upgrade over the two. And if you have one of these, like, it's not like it's necessarily a replacement. It doesn't even look necessarily good side by side. I don't think they're a great combo because one just looks so much better. So I wouldn't even recommend doing that with your collection if that's what you're looking into doing. This just seems to be one of those rare sets that passes the price per piece test. It has 665 pieces. That's under 10 cents per piece, which is the golden rule for many people. I think it even has a good price per gram for weight ratio. It's a $60 set that weighs over 400 grams versus this $30 set, which weighs about 150 grams. And even with that in mind, it just doesn't pass the eye test. And unfortunately, I think what adds a lot of value for a lot of people in a lot of Lego Star Wars sets is going to be minifigs. And this is a display set. It didn't need minifigs. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying they add value. And when you don't have that, something just tends to look like it's missing for your money. Inflation, it's just not helping. Like, you just can't put it any other way. Inflation hurts here. It also is a thing where Lego is definitely looking for a market of people with more money. This is like the 45 to 55-year-old Star Wars fan who grew up with it, and now they have a job that pays $300,000 a year, and $60 is just not that much money to them. It's just not. Versus like the, teenager or 20-year-old in college that looks at $60 and says, oh my, $60, I'm gonna have to eat ramen for a month, right? There's just a big difference in the consumer that you're getting there. So, and that's what Lego's looking for. I mean, it's pretty obvious in what they're using for their marketing imagery for this, the houses that these people, or apartments or whatever they have. I mean, they are in some ritzy, nice, fancy, very expensive looking abodes. And so I think that's pretty obvious, unfortunately, for the people that want something like this to be cheap. I just, for the vast majority of people, would highly recommend waiting for this one to hit 10-20% off, because getting this for $48 is going to feel so much better, I promise. So this one to me is a solid 9 out of 10. Really only loses a point on the price. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed my review, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars 2022 set reviews on the end screen now.